They liberated Europe. They fought across the Pacific, but their final battle, the one no one warned them they'd have to face, was waiting for them at home. McMinn County, Tennessee, 1946, a quiet American town in the shadow of a corrupt political machine. For years, Sheriff Paul Cantrell and his deputies ruled the county with fear. They shook down citizens, extorted travelers, rigged elections, and assaulted anyone who dared to question them. People whispered that Cantrell's deputies were worse than bootleggers and gangsters because they had badges. But then World War II ended, and the soldiers came home. These were men hardened in battle, survivors of Anzio, Guadalcanal, Normandy, the Bulge. They had fought fascism abroad, only to find a smaller version rotting in their own county. One veteran said, "I didn't survive Europe to be pushed around by some tin-badge dictator." So when the 1946 election arrived, the veterans formed a non-partisan reform ticket. All they wanted, their only demand, was a fair vote. But Cantrell's deputies had no intention of losing power. They stationed armed men at the polls. They beat voters in the streets. They arrested poll watchers and stole ballot boxes, then hauled them into the county jail, slamming the doors shut behind them. That was the breaking point. The veterans gathered in the darkness of Athens, Tennessee, and someone said the words that would change history. "We fought a war to stop this kind of thing." They armed themselves, not out of rebellion, but out of necessity. Some carried pistols, others had M1 rifles and shotguns. A few even brought their old wartime gear, helmets, bandoliers, field jackets worn thin from foreign battles. These were not outlaws, they were veterans defending their town. Just after sunset, they surrounded the jail and demanded the return of the ballot boxes. The deputies inside answered with gunfire. The streets erupted. Bullets ricocheted off brick walls. Veterans took cover behind cars, telephone poles, and sand piles, returning fire with military precision. For hours, Athens became a war zone. A deputy radioed for state reinforcements, but none arrived. The veterans were on their own. Finally, around midnight, they made their move. Using dynamite, just as some had done to clear bunkers in Europe, they blasted the jailhouse entrance. Debris rained down, smoke filled the air. The deputies surrendered. The veterans stormed inside and recovered the stolen ballots. When the votes were counted, the corrupt machine was defeated. Power was restored to the people. And the next morning, Athens woke up to a sheriff's office run by the very veterans who had restored their democracy. The Battle of Athens wasn't an uprising against America, it was America. The version celebrated in civics books and fought for on distant shores, fighting to live again. George Washington once warned, "The liberties of a people never were, nor ever will be secure when the transactions of their rulers may be concealed from them." In 1946, in a small Tennessee town, a group of veterans made sure those liberties stayed alive. Comment which forgotten American battle or uprising you want to hear about next, and follow for more stories from the lost and found.